I would rather die in the womb than be born in that family. In 1970, my mother, who was married for the 4th time, gave birth to her 5th child, me. Shortly after I turned 3, my mother sent me to the ice rink. The coach declined, saying that the child was too young, but my mother pushed me out confidently. I walked on the ice with a smile, as if I were walking on flat ground. In this way, I became the coach's youngest student. And half a year later, I won the first gold medal in my life. However, this extraordinary talent was just a bet for my mother to get rid of poverty, and she didn't say a good word to me. She didn't allow me to make friends. Even if I wanted to go to the toilet, she wouldn't let me because every penny she earned from hard work had to be spent on my ice. If I made a mistake, I would be beaten and kicked, even in public places. Violence in private was commonplace. Why would a mother be so harsh on her daughter? Perhaps it was because she had lived an unhappy life. She projected her dissatisfaction and anger onto her child. My coach saw this clearly. He could not pull a radical person back to normal track and could only let things develop. The coach suggested to my mother that I buy a fur coat. His original intention was just to hope that I could integrate into the figure skating circle. However, my mother spoke harshly to him, thinking that it was useless and just a waste of money. Fortunately, I still have a normal father. He was the only sunshine in my suffocating childhood. He sewed a coat for me by hand. My father just wanted me to be no different from other children, but he angered my mother and was kicked out. The day he left, I cried my heart out.
Take me with you!
As you can imagine, growing up in such a family environment, my character flaws are as obvious as my talents. When I was 16, I participated in the national competition for the first time. Among the elegant and delicate girls, I was indeed different. Others chose classical music, but I chose heavy metal. Others went for ballet style, but I went for Western style. My skills were impeccable, and my strength, speed, and control killed all the contestants in seconds. However, when it came to the scoring stage, my score was not ideal, that the judges hoped to see a more traditional performance. When I returned home, my mother naturally didn't have a good face. My mother's bad words were vented out uncontrollably, and the dirty words hit the innocent children. He was the biggest bully in the child's life, but he never knew it. After that incident, I moved out of my mother's house and started living with my boyfriend. His name is Jeff, and he is a truck mechanic. Once he saw me on the ice rink by chance, he praised me. I, who lacked love since childhood, felt like I had grabbed a life-saving straw and quickly fell in love with him.
Hey, it's Roman.
Started hitting me a few months in.
But every time he hit me, he would apologize and beg for mercy and promised that he would never do it again next time. So I forgave him every time. Growing up in violence, I actually thought that violence was also a part of love. At least compared to my mother, Jeff had a gentle side. I lived a rare, peaceful life. In order to prepare for the next competition, I sewed a performance costume for myself. In fact, I also wanted to get the recognition of the referee, but my education determined that my understanding of elegance was limited to pink lace and bows. As expected, because of this fancy dress, I got a low score again. Full of grievance and anger, I rushed to the referee's seat and questioned loudly in front of everyone. The coach tried to reason with me, but I was so angry that I fired the coach directly. I didn't realize that at this moment I was exactly the same as my hated mother. In this way, I drove away the only person who really cared about me and knew how to support me. Not long after, I was isolated and helpless and hurriedly married Jeff, just because I hoped that my life would have a guarantee. At the important moment of my life, I still invited my mother. I wanted to share some happiness with my mother, but she was sarcastic without a blessing or even a greeting.
Marrying the first idiot who says you're pretty.
In this way, we parted again unhappily. Time came to the 1991 National Championships, and I planned to challenge the 1.5 twist jump in this competition. This is a super difficult skill. A man suddenly appeared in the audience and started to curse at me. However, this man was hired by my mother at her expense because she believed that abuse could bring out my potential. As the actions kept advancing, even the voice of the commentator gradually became tense. This is not only a historic breakthrough, but also the happiest moment in my life. At this moment, I won the love of the American audience. At this moment, life showed me the most promising future. Everyone was cheering for me and proud of me. Only the corners of my mother's mouth twitched, and her resentful eyes were full of resentment of the conspiracy's failure. After that, I became a national star, but it made my husband extremely unbalanced. He began to become moody and soon escalated into frequent violence.
And I just had enough.
Without the interference of my husband, my condition was getting better and better, and I won the championship and runner-up in several competitions in succession. At that time, my main competitor, Nancy Kerrigan, was from a prominent family. When I was concentrating on preparing for the competition, my haunted husband appeared again and stuffed some ice cream I loved in the refrigerator. This little bit of sweetness was enough to make me turn back. Strangely enough, as long as my husband was around, I couldn't skate well. Since the reunion, I made mistakes and fell on the ice, and my ranking fell step by step. But at this time, the Winter Olympics came as scheduled. But this time, the god of luck did not favor me. I only won the 4th place. I watched Nancy stand on the podium and won the bronze medal in loneliness. After the defeat in the competition, my husband's violence became worse, and he often punched and kicked me. I called the police for asylum many times, but my husband didn't change at all. He even shot me when he was violent again. I couldn't stand it anymore and finally chose to divorce. At this time, I had nothing. As the 4th place, I lost all the advertisements and endorsements. I could only work in a restaurant like my mother to support myself. The miserable life made me start smoking and drinking, and my figure was seriously out of shape. At this time, my former coach appeared and brought me good news that the next Winter Olympics would be 2 years later, not 4 years later.
The world is giving you a second chance. I know you don't believe in them, but I do.
This time, I also made a real change. So this time, I took off my fancy nail polish and started to learn ballet. Gradually, my state came back. However, in the next competition, I was still given a low score. I went to the judges privately to ask why I failed. The judges reluctantly told me the truth.
You're representing our country, for fuck's sake. We need to see a wholesome American family, and you...
Although it wasn't my fault, I had to bear the consequences. In desperation, I had to go to my mother. I asked that question that had been pent up in my heart since childhood.
Kid, did you ever love me or...
My mother answered like this: "Love is useless. I trained you to be a champion. You should thank me." Perhaps one of the cruelest things in the world is to find out that your biological mother does not love you. For the so-called complete family, I had to reconcile with my ex-husband. However, the development of the situation far exceeded my imagination. One day, I received a threatening letter before the game. He threatened to shoot me in the audience at night. That time, I was so scared that I didn't dare to participate in the game. Although there is no evidence, I think it must be Nancy. My assumption gave my ex-husband a wrong inspiration. When he asked a friend to send a threatening letter to Nancy, hoping that Nancy would also withdraw from the competition. But his friend was an idiot. He thought that a threatening letter would not have any effect, so he changed the plan on his own initiative. In this way, the day before the national competition, a gangster attacked Nancy at the training ground and smashed her right hand. This incident quickly made the headlines. When my ex-husband found out, he panicked, but he didn't tell me. Because the game that day was the ticket to the Winter Olympics, my performance was perfect, and even if Nancy participated, I would be the well-deserved champion. However, just when the Winter Olympics were within reach, an uninvited guest arrived. At this moment, I was still completely unaware that Nancy's injury was related to myself. With the arrest of the perpetrator, it didn't take long for the FBI to find out that it was my ex-husband who was behind the scenes. For a time, this scandal in the figure skating world shocked the whole country, and I became the center of the public opinion storm. I was preparing for the competition under tremendous pressure and almost collapsed. At this juncture, my mother, who had not been in contact for a long time, came to my door. She did not criticize or scold me, but was very gentle. After a minute of warmth and clearness, my mother finally revealed her true intention. There was a tape recorder hidden in her pocket. It turned out that all the warmth was fake. She actually sold her daughter for money. Amid the overwhelming condemnation, I had to apologize publicly. At the 1994 Winter Olympics, a pair of enemies competed on the same field, and the whole world was waiting to see this good show. The huge pressure made me lose my footing, but I had to force myself to smile. 2 minutes before the performance, my shoelaces broke. This accident became the last straw that broke my willpower. I was still tidying up my shoelaces until I went on stage. After the competition started, I tried to accelerate and jump up. Sure enough, I failed on the first jump. I couldn't hold back my tears of grievance any longer. At that moment, I seemed to be defeated by something. I skated to the judges, put my legs on the table without caring about my image, and cried to the judges. After some discussion, the judges allowed me to go off the court to change a pair of shoes. Half an hour later, I returned to the court after changing my shoes and completed the action perfectly, but I only got the 8th place in the end. My old rival Nancy won the silver medal that year and became a veritable ice queen. Shortly after returning to China, the Figure Skating Association brought me to court for obstruction of justice. The court's final verdict was a fine of $160,000 US, 500 hours of community service, and lifelong competition. It was not until then that I regretted it, but the law no longer responded to my plea. After losing figure skating in order to pay the huge compensation, I had to become a boxer. The same audience, the same cheers. The difference is that I used to jump high and fly into the sky, but now I spit blood and hit the ground. But life did not knock me down. I still tried to live.